opening kirtan by Dhananjaya Prabhu. So today, now we'll be having a discussion on Bhagavad Gita. So before we begin our discussion on Bhagavad Gita, we'll start with our Jaya Radha Madhava bhajan. Jaya Radha Madhava today's Sunday program. So, as always, we will be discussing from Bhagavad Gita as it is today. So, before we start our discussion, yes, of course, Kumar Mataji is already on the job of distributing the Bhagavad Gitas. Yes, so before we start our discussion, are there anyone here for the first time? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yourself. I felt like I've seen you before.
Yeah, one side.
Yeah. Okay, welcome. So, yes, so today we will be discussing from Bhagavad Gita as it is. So before I start the discussion, I would like to start with a question. I need a volunteer here. Anyone can raise their hand? Any volunteer? Am I through? Yes. So I have a question for you. So not very difficult. So, who is the most loved person in your life? Of course, we know Vrinda Mataji, but apart from her.
Personality of person.
A person.
Right. Being a devotee, if you're able to love Krishna the most, but for me,
Yes, that's on a transcendental level, but bodily.
even my grandchildren,
Your grandchildren. Okay, so yeah, but my question will be like, if any of your grandchildren they fall sick and they require a serious treatment, and you have to approach a doctor, and probably they might have to undergo maybe a surgery, and if a person comes up saying that, don't worry, you need not go to the doctor. I've studied all the medical books. I will come and operate your grandchildren. Would you believe in that person? Why?
I need to know whether he's really a doctor.
Yeah.
So,
But he says that he has read all the medical books. He has read everything. So why? It's like he has the medical knowledge.
yeah, he has to be qualified.
How can he become
He
qualified?
has to show that he possesses the degree and qualification. He's known by that.
Yeah,
If not, anybody can just come and do that.
exactly. So we can't just put our trust in a person who just says that we just read everything and then we can act as a doctor. But the person should possess a qualification. And most importantly, that person should have also worked under a doctor who has also had a specific qualification. So unless one has gained this qualification, a person cannot be called a doctor. And we, maybe as patients, we cannot put our trust in that person. So similarly, when it comes to our spiritual lives, we are all like the deceased person. We all require treatment. And the person whom we approach for the treatment, any guesses? Who can treat us? Spiritual master. So,
senior devotees are called who are really who've been in the group and activities for a long time. They can guide us as well.
exactly, yes. So they act as spiritual masters as well to some degree. So today's discussion is going to be on spiritual master, which means guru, who is a very high responsibility and who plays a very important role in our spiritual lives. So yes, so we can start our discussion. Can anyone guess the verse, as we know the crux of the discussion? Come on, 434, that's it. That's the right verse. So, today's discussion is going to be on Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text number 34. I'll put it on the screen. Before we start our discussion, let's offer some invocation prayers. Everyone, repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. As it is chapter 4, chapter entitled Transcendental Knowledge, doing text number 34. So we'll do each word in the verse first, then afterwards we'll do the verse together. Can everyone repeat after me? Tat vidhi pranipadena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te Nanam Naninaha Tattva Darshinaha. So now we'll do each line in the verse. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te gnanam Naninas Tatvadarshinaha Tadvidhi Pranipadena Pariprashnena Sevaya Padekshyanti Te Gnanam Naninas Tatvadarshinaha Tadvidhi Pranipadena Pariprashnena Sevaya Padekshyanti Te Gnanam Gnaninas Tattvadarshinaha. Anyone in the audience? Tadvidhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya Padekshyanti Te Gnanam Naninas Tattvadarshinaha Tadvidhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya Upadekshyanti Te Gnanam Naninas Tattvadarshinaha
Tadvidhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya Upadekshyanti Te Gnanam Naninas Tattvadarshinaha.
Any ladies?
Tadvidhi Pranipatena
Pariprashnena Sevaya
Padekshyanti Te
Gnanam Naninas Tattvadarshinaha. Tadvidhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya Upadekshyanti Te Gnanam Naninas Tattvadarshinaha. Tadvidhi Pranipatena
परिप्रश्नेन सेवया
उपदेशन्ति ते ज्ञानम्
उपदेशन्ति ते ज्ञानम्
ज्ञानिनस्तत्त्वदर्शिनः
ज्ञानिनस्तत्त्वदर्शिनः.
Okay, so we will move on to the word-to-word translations. Repeat after me. That knowledge of different sacrifices. Vidhi. Try to understand. Pranipadena. By approaching a spiritual master. Pariprashnena. By submissive inquiries. Sevaya. By the rendering of service. Upadekshanti. They will initiate. They, you. Gnanam. Into knowledge. Jnaninaha. The self-realized. Tattva. Of the truth. Darshanaha. Seers. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Please repeat after me. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Purport. The path of self-realization is undoubtedly difficult. The Lord therefore advises us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord himself. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master without following this principle of disciplic succession. The Lord is the original spiritual master, and the person in the disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is to his disciple. No one can be spiritually realized by manufacturing his own process, as is the fashion of the foolish pretenders. The Bhagavatam 6.3.19 says, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The path of religion is directly enunciated by the Lord. Therefore, mental speculation or dry arguments cannot help lead one to the right path, nor by independent study of books of knowledge can one progress in spiritual life. One has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. Satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. Inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from learned spiritual master will not be effective. One must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master, and when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Not only should one hear submissively from the spiritual master, but one must also get a clear understanding from him in submission and service and inquiries. A bona fide spiritual master is by nature very kind toward the disciple. Therefore, when the student is submissive and is always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries become perfect. Om Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavani Paschatya Deshatarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are discussing from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 4, which is transcendental knowledge. So this verse speaks about the significance of accepting a spiritual master. And the theme of today's discussion is along those lines, why we should accept a spiritual master. So we are discussing Bhagavad Gita as it is, so which is a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. But this conversation wouldn't have taken place until Arjuna did one very significant thing. Can anyone say what was that?
Is it he went into the middle of the battlefield and saw all his relatives on the other side and he got overwhelmed with compassion for them, and then he was confused about his duty. So that's why he was inquiring to Krishna. Is that the one?
Yes, you are almost right, Mataji. But there's one significant thing which Arjuna did, which started a discussion of Bhagavad Gita. Your hands up. Dhananjay Prabhu.
At one point Arjuna wanted to change his attitude towards Krishna in that he wanted to accept him as a guru rather than a friend, so he asked him if he could be his disciple.
Exactly, that's the point. So Arjuna and Krishna, as you know, they are friends. You know, they are of similar age. So if one may ask a question, you know, all the Pandavas are all devotees. So why did only Krishna speak to Arjuna? Superficially, we can say, okay, Yudhishthira, the 5 Pandavas, Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva. The 2 brothers, Yudhishthira and Bhima, they are older in terms of age to Krishna and Arjuna, and Nakula and Sahadeva, they are younger to Krishna and Arjuna. So Arjuna is of similar age, so we can say, yeah, that's why Krishna spoke to Arjuna. But still, Krishna didn't give any instruction to Arjuna until, you know, Arjuna was perplexed. He was shivering, his bow was slipping from his hand, he was seeing all his relatives, he has to fight the war, you know, he had planned to escape the war, he was putting forward his arguments, but there came a point where Arjuna just surrendered unto Krishna. He stopped all the friendly talks. He was sharing everything with Krishna as a friend, but at one point he felt like, you know, I definitely need to surrender. I have to surrender. And when he surrendered and just told Krishna, Shishyasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapanna, I am your Shishya. Shishya means disciple. Then Krishna instructed him the Bhagavad Gita. So this is how, you know, we can receive spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge cannot be obtained by friendly talks. It's a serious subject matter. It's a subject matter on the platform of the soul. So unless we surrender unto a bona fide spiritual master, we cannot receive spiritual knowledge, even if a person is as close to Krishna as Arjuna. The beginning and this spiritual knowledge is conveyed through spiritual masters. Like Prabhupada has been explaining or putting forward in this purport so many times. This spiritual knowledge is passed from a guru to a disciple, from a spiritual master to his disciple in a disciplic succession. And this is not something, you know, something made up. You know, this is a very traditional and an ancient process. And even Krishna himself, at the beginning of this 4th chapter, he says that he has first given this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to the son god Vivaswan, and then from Vivaswan it has been passed down to his son Manu, and then from Manu to Ikshvaku. So when it comes to the point where who starts the disciplic succession, it's Krishna himself. And in this same chapter, Krishna says that there was this disciplic succession, which has been broken, and now I am imparting this same knowledge to you, Arjuna, because again, Arjuna had two special qualifications. Yes, he was a friend of Krishna, and at the same time he was a devotee of Krishna. So similarly, it is very important in our lives to become a devotee of Krishna. Anyone can read Bhagavad Gita, but just because you read Bhagavad Gita, you cannot guarantee that you will understand everything in what Krishna said, or all the Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita. You need to possess this qualification of being a devotee. Then, you become suitable to receive the spiritual knowledge. So, coming to this verse, Krishna is telling Arjuna, just try to understand the truth by approaching a spiritual master. So before this verse, Krishna was telling various types of sacrifices to Arjuna. So before we get into the discussion of what types of sacrifices Krishna is speaking about, first we need to understand the fundamental concept in spiritual life, that we are not this body. As we were discussing in the beginning, that Arjuna was perplexed, he was in a very grave situation. Being a warrior, it's a shame that at the battlefield, you're losing all courage and even the enthusiasm and desire to fight. But all the sufferings of Arjuna were being mitigated, by Krishna's instructions. And the first instruction that Krishna told Arjuna is, you are not this body. You are a spirit soul dwelling within the body. And everyone you're seeing in connection to this body that you're afraid to fight with, your fathers, your grandfathers, your cousins, it's all in relation to the body. But the moment you transcend the bodily relationships, you see that everyone is that one spirit soul. And we'll see everyone in connection to Krishna. So this knowledge about spiritual life, or understanding that we are the spirit soul, is called Sankhya, or it's also called Sankhya Yoga. So, which is translated by Srila Prabhupada as the analytical study of the living being. Krishna first gives these instructions of Sankhya, which means what is the spirit soul? What are the characteristics, the properties of a spirit soul? Can it be dead? The body dies. Can the spirit soul die? Can it be burned? Can it be withered? Can it be drowned? And then, after giving this knowledge about the spirit soul, Krishna gives the knowledge to Arjuna about, okay, you have now understood that you are this body, you are a spirit soul, and you have to act in this material world because you are in this material world. So how do you act? So you need to act in such a way that you do not become bound to the fruitive activities or the fruitive results. Because in this world, whatever activities we perform, we get a result. And that result binds us to this material world. And the aim of life should be to get out of this material world, which is full of miseries, and to obtain that spiritual abode, which is full of happiness, and which is our original home, from where we came from. We are like the lost children of the Father. The Father wants us to come back, but we are those stubborn children who do not want to go back home to the Father and enjoy the resources and properties of the Father in service of the Father. So, how to act? Krishna says that in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But at that point, Arjuna becomes a bit perplexed. What should I do now? It's like, you have told me the characteristics of the soul, and you have told me to act without being bound to this material world. So at that point starts this discussion about Karma Yoga in Bhagavad Gita, on Krishna's instructions on how to act in this material world. So if we see, how the Bhagavad Gita goes, from the 3, 4, 5 chapters, Krishna instructs in depth on how to act without being bound to this material material world. But that is for those who wants to work in this material world. But there are people who do not wish to work in the material world because they understand that, well, what's the point of even working, you know? You cannot avoid suffering. Let's go renounce everything and go to the forest and meditate. In order to address these people, Krishna then instructs about Dhyana Yoga, which is the chapter 6 in Bhagavad Gita. These people are a bit more elevated than the fruity workers because they are the yogis. They've understood that this work is going to bind us anyway. There's always happiness, distress, everything associated with the work we are doing. Let's renounce everything, let's meditate upon the Supreme. And then, so we got the Karma Yoga people, whom we call the Karmis. And then we got the yogis. But is there anyone who is beyond both the Karmis and yogis? Should we just be restricted, either you work or don't work? No. The ultimate aim of life, or our actual constitutional position, is that we are all servants of Krishna. We are the Jiva. Jiva means the spirit soul. And what is our constitutional position? Jiva Swarup Hoy Krishnera Nitya Das. So we are all the servants of Krishna. So unless we act on the platform of Krishna consciousness, which is called Bhakti Yoga, we cannot be completely happy or transcendental to the dualities of this material world. And these activities, they take us back home, back to Godhead. And from the chapter 7 until the chapter 12, Krishna speaks elaborately on Bhakti Yoga. So here in this chapter 4, Krishna is trying to give a glimpse, if you cannot do karma, you do, if you can, he comes in a reverse phase, like you cannot do bhakti, you do, jnana, or you accumulate knowledge. And then if you cannot, then you act without fruitive results. So that's why we see in the word-to-word translation, Prabhupada said, that knowledge of different sacrifices. In the sense, Krishna is giving the knowledge of acting, with different, or he's just giving the knowledge of different sacrifices. We do sacrifice in fruitive activities. We do sacrifices in knowledge. Similarly, so this is a very deep subject matter, and although Krishna is telling it, when it comes to applying to ourselves, we can't just figure out, it's like, okay, this is what is said, this is what I need to do. Because we are all individuals, we are not one. It's like, we all have our own problems, we have our own happinesses, distress. So we are an individual. So being an individual, it's hard to apply these principles. We know what needs to be done, but our circumstances are different. In that stage, we need a person who can guide us exactly how we can apply these principles or instructions of Bhagavad Gita. So that particular person we call as Guru. And it is very important. That's why here Krishna is saying that knowledge of different sacrifices, it's very difficult. You cannot understand this sacrifice, okay, this, that, what should I do now? It's like everything is said. It's like you can't just take everything and apply everything. You need to know when, what you can apply. And you can't do it yourself because you do not have the complete knowledge. And Guru is the person who tells you based on your situation. So that is what Krishna is also instructing here. That you approach a bona fide person and you surrender unto him. This is the process. That you just don't go to a person and just act and then, okay, job done, goodbye. Go, there's a process of, this is not material science. This is not a university education or where you just pay your fees, attend your lectures and then, write your exams, pass the exam and then shut the books and just forget about it. It's not that kind of a subject matter. It's a spiritual science. There's a spiritual process. And unless you follow the process as it is, you won't get the desired result. And the desired result is love for Krishna. So the process of even how to approach a bona fide spiritual master is, you go to the person, you submit to the person. That's called pranipatena, submission. You submit to the person, You just don't go and just ask whatever you want and just, forget about him. You go, you submit to the person. Then you inquire from him, and at the same time you render service to him. In a modern age, we see that, people do not have respect for their teachers. Because they feel like, well, it's we who are maintaining you. Unless we pay our fee, you can't run your livelihood. So we see that there's, even from a moral point of view, people have lost the general etiquette towards teachers. So that's the reason why the society is in chaos. These are like the general things which we expect. Respecting, one's parents, respecting one's teachers. But because of the age of Kali, everything has been diminishing. So, but here, in spiritual life, it doesn't work. That you go, you go to a person, you just pay your fees, and you get whatever you need, and then forget about him. It won't work. There's a process. First you submit, and you inquire, and you do service to the person. Traditionally, when children in the Varnashrama society, they were taught, they were left at the house of Guru. Srila Prabhupada also mentions in the Prabhupada that one has to render menial service. In the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, Narad Muni instructs actually, Brahmachari Gurukule Vasan Danto Kurohitam. At the first stage of Varnashrama is the boys are trained as brahmacharis, in the sense a celibate life, where their complete focus will be on education, spiritual education. And it's not like they go to the school in the morning and they just come back in the evening, and then they do whatever they want in the evening. So, no, they go to the house of the Guru, they stay there, they serve the Guru, and then when the Guru is pleased, then they get the knowledge. And in this way, Danto Gurur Hidam, it is said that they live for the Guru, for the satisfaction of the Guru. And then when the Guru is satisfied, the spiritual knowledge is imparted. So similarly, that is a process that you go, you got to surrender unto the Guru. But what is the main thing that you want from a Guru is the Vijnana. The Shastra says that Vijnanartham sa Guru Meva Abhikache. If you want to understand the science of devotional service, devotional service can be theory until we know how to apply, and the knowledge of how to apply is given by Guru. So now I'll just roll the ball in the audience. So can anyone think of a famous person and his Guru? It's like a person became very famous, could be in the history or anyone. A famous personality and his Guru. Can anyone say? Prabhupada. Okay, this is contemporary. Let's go back in history. Arjuna Dronacharya. Okay, yes. Someone else? Any great devotees who had?
But even Lord Chaitanya had Guru, even Krishna too.
Exactly. Yes.
When he came from.
Yes. Even Krishna accepted spiritual master. Sandeep and Muni.
Narottam Das Thakur.
Narottam Das Thakur.
Lokanath.
Lokanath Goswami. Anyone else? Come on, there are so many. Sai Mataji.
Dhruva accepted Narada Muni.
Exactly. Yes. Dhruva Maharaj, 5-year-old boy, he accepted Narad Muni. Anyone? Any more?
Vyasadeva accepted Narada Muni.
Now Vyasadeva accepted Narad Muni. Anyone else?
Ishwar Puri ji was.
Ishwar Puri
Yeah.
was the guru of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah, and he was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. Yes? Anyone? Okay, so there are innumerable examples, but let's focus on Saraswati Mataji's example. Raghunath Das.
We just had that festival last week.
Yes, Panihati, yeah. Yeah. So let's focus on Dhruva Maharaj. A 5-year-old kid became glorious, and he's been mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Why? Because he accepted Narad Muni as his spiritual master. And we can see the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj as well. Even small children, by accepting a spiritual master, they became so glorious by following the instructions that, they are recorded in the history. And it's not that they are just recorded in the history, but they followed their spiritual master to such an extent that Krishna himself had to appear for them. So, and not only that, coming back to Rajendranathan Prabhu, that even Krishna, when he himself descended to this material world, he accepted the spiritual master to show an example that even a spiritual even one could be a supreme personality of God. Still, if he has to obtain spiritual knowledge, he must accept a spiritual master. In this regard, in Nectar of Devotion, there is an example given. Rupa Goswami gives an example. It's like Krishna is, just like an ocean. The clouds just take the water from the ocean and they pour it down on the hills, and the same water flows down through the rivers and back into the sea. Rupa Goswami gives an example that Krishna is like the ocean, and the same knowledge which comes from Krishna has been taken by a cloud like Sandipani Muni, and now it's been again given to Krishna. So it's not like Krishna was with no knowledge and suddenly Sandipani Muni gave him the knowledge. No, but it is just to set a standard that even the Supreme Personality of Godhead had to accept the spiritual master. And even when Krishna came as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he still accepted a spiritual master. So, actually I wanted to discuss one more subject matter, but I would quickly give this a conclusion. So, spiritual master plays a very important role in our everyday life. And the devotional service starts by accepting a bona fide spiritual master. So, as we are discussing the nectar of devotion, the 64 links of sadhana bhakti or devotional service and practice. The first one is Adav Guru Ashraya, the sense like you first go and accept a spiritual master. Your spiritual life won't begin until you accept the spiritual master. Then all the other limbs, they come. But the first 5 are just like you first go and accept the spiritual master. You take initiation from there, and then you start your spiritual life. Initiation is just the beginning of the spiritual life. It's not the, a milestone. Of course, it's like a milestone or like a, end of spiritual life or like achievement in spiritual life. To a certain extent, can be, but initiation is the beginning of the spiritual life, where you are accepted in a by a bona fide spiritual master. So, when it comes to spiritual master, can we accept any spiritual master? Or when it comes to disciplic successions, can we accept any disciplic succession or start our own disciplic succession? No, again the process is given by Krishna. There are 4 bona fide disciplic successions, one by the Rudras, and one by the Kumaras, and one by the Sri Vaishnavas, and the other is by Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So these are the 4 bona fide Vaishnava paramparas or disciplic successions. Nowadays it's like people, and they have no knowledge, and they accept anyone and everyone as guru. But here Prabhupada is especially stressing that you need to accept a guru, but that guru must be coming in a bona fide disciplic succession. And it's so unfortunate that nowadays it's like people are creating their own you know, sampradayas as well. It's like one new one is like I was recently hearing. A person, he just graduated from one of India's reputed institutions, and he started his own disciplic succession, and he called himself Nigrahacharya or whatever. It's like, and he started his own sampradaya. It's like, so this is something which we need to be very careful about. That, you know, just because you see someone on YouTube or someone speaks really good, it's like that may not be the right thing. You need to have the preliminary knowledge. Prabhupada gives the example like, if you want to go and purchase a gold, first of all, before you purchase the gold, you need to have knowledge about what gold is. You can't just go and purchase gold anywhere. If you are like that, then you will be cheated. First of all, you need to learn what gold is, and after that, you do your research. Similarly, when we want to advance in a spiritual life, the guru is especially required for those who are serious and sincere and who wants to advance in their spiritual life. And for them, first of all, they need to have a preliminary knowledge. Yes, you go do your research, read Bhagavad Gita and everything. You know. Then you do your research. Who is speaking in line with Bhagavad Gita? In the early days of Krishna consciousness, during the 1960s and 1970s, a lot of swamis and yogis have been to America, to spread their own cults, own traditions. But people weren't satisfied. They couldn't bring out something meaningful in people, because all they saw was hypocrisy. A person, they're either saying something, that they are preaching, but when it comes to personal behavior, it's something different. But they have never seen any person who walked his talk, who preached, followed according to the Vedic scriptures. And the only person who did that was Srila Prabhupada. That's why, although a lot of spiritual gurus, they went to the Western countries, trying to preach their own, philosophy or something like that, no one became successful like Srila Prabhupada, because he was preaching the instructions of Krishna as it is. By the time there were like about 600 editions of Bhagavad Gita, so there was no need of another edition of Bhagavad Gita, And by now, I think we've got some maybe thousands of Bhagavad Gitas. But out of them, this Bhagavad Gita as it is very powerful, because we are carrying out the instructions of Krishna as it is. So, I would just like to conclude, and just one more thing I want to touch today is one last point regarding Guru, and also I want to discuss about one special occasion. Today is a very special occasion. It's the appearance day of one of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers, so I'll be discussing about that as well. I'm a bit conscious of time, so please bear with me. So one last point I want to make in terms of Guru is like, in the Shvetashvata Upanishads, we have the Puranas and the Upanishads. So after giving all the instructions, the last instruction of the Shvetashvata Upanishad is Yasya deve para bhaktir yatha deve tatha guru tasya te katita hyartha prakashante mahatmanaha. So we all, we're trying our best, to understand spiritual life, but what is the secret? It is said that one who has unflinching faith in both Krishna, which is expected, but also in spiritual master, and who doesn't see any difference in the instructions of Guru and spiritual master. Listen, the spiritual master is just repeating the instructions of Krishna, and who has this unflinching faith in such a spiritual master. All the imports of the Vedic knowledge are revealed to such a person. So this spiritual knowledge, we inquire, we get the answers, but at the end of the day, unless we realize, we can't make any tangible progress on spiritual life. So that realization comes when we have strong faith, not just in Krishna but also in the spiritual master. And here spiritual master refers to a bona fide representative of Krishna, a transparent via media of Krishna, who repeats what Krishna has said, who doesn't interpret Krishna's instructions or add anything to Krishna's instructions. You have faith in that spiritual master, you have faith in Krishna, all the spiritual knowledge is revealed. So that's on the subject matter of why we need to accept the spiritual master and the importance of spiritual master in our Krishna consciousness. Another important discussion which I just want to quickly say, because today is a very auspicious occasion, the appearance of Vakreshwar Pandit. So today, the appearance and disappearance of days of Vaishnavas should always be celebrated, because because we're all, birds of same feather flocking together. It's like we're all on our spiritual journeys. But in our spiritual journeys, no matter how much endeavor we do, at the end of the day, we do require some mercy. We do require some help, in our spiritual life, some mercy from Krishna that could help us. So, in order to give us those opportunities, a lot of Vaishnavas, have descended, and just by celebrating their appearance days and disappearance days, we obtain their mercy. And it is said that on these days, just like, we are a bit extra happy when it is our birthdays, like we are a bit more generous. Similarly, the Vaishnavas are very generous, especially on the days of their appearance days and disappearance days. So today is the appearance day of one of Lord Chaitanya's very, very important associate, who is Vakreshwar Pandit. So Vakreshwar Pandit he appeared during the same time as Lord Chaitanya, during the late 1400s, in a village called Guptapara. It's near Triveni. I don't know. I think it's on north of Bengal. So he is a very important associate, and one pastime on how you can see how close he is to Lord Chaitanya is like in Navadvip there was a Brahmana called Devananda Pandit. So he is a very eloquent Bhagavatam reciter, in the sense like when he gives the Bhagavatam class, a lot of people just gather just to hear from him. So once he was giving his Bhagavatam lectures, and one of our Panchatattva, which is Srivas Thakur, which you see him on your far right, my far left. So he went and he attended one of the Bhagavatam lectures that Devananda Pandit was giving. But when Devananda Pandit was speaking and Srivas Thakur, when he was hearing the Bhagavatam, because he is a very advanced devotee, he couldn't, he was enjoying Bhagavatam to such an extent that tears were flowing from his eyes. His hair was standing on the end. He was so absorbed that he was displaying the symptoms of ecstasy, and he started to roll on the ground. And although such a magnificent, features were evident in his body, still Devananda Pandit, he wasn't disturbed by all these symptoms. But the organizers or the persons who are guarding the Bhagavatam class, they were quite disturbed, and what they did was they just picked up Srivas Thakur and they just threw him out of the class. And this was quite offensive, especially in Vaishnava life. It's like we are very much guarding against offenses. Like even a little offense toward a Vaishnava, the results are quite heavy. And when you offend a devotee like Srivas Thakur, the effect of the offense is quite heavy as well. It's like, so when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he got to know that Srivas Thakur was thrown away from this Bhagavatam class, he was quite disappointed, not only guards who threw him out, but on the speaker, who is Devananda Pandit, because when this thing was going on, he didn't say a word or didn't restrict. So sometimes it's important for us to learn, like, when you say something, a Vaishnava aparat going on, and you're just watching it, and then you're not making an attempt, that's also an offense. So because Devananda, he didn't protest against what was going on Srivas Thakur, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu neglected him and didn't bestow his mercy on Devananda. And I'm quite not sure regarding this point, that I think he even couldn't do his same Bhagavatam classes to the same extent as he used to do. So, he was quite disappointed, that he repented a lot afterwards, that why I didn't know I lost the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So one day, Vakreshwar Pandit, he visited a village called Kuliyagram, which is on the other side of Ganga. And Vakreshwar Pandit is especially famous for one thing. Does anyone like dancing in the kirtan? You can just lift your hands. Who likes dancing in the kirtan? Okay, now my next question is a bit tricky. How long can you dance in the kirtan? Any estimates? How long? 30 minutes?
That's personal.
A person. Okay, let's say on an average, based on our bodily abilities, let's say an hour maximum. But Vakreshwar Pandit was such a devotee that he could dance in kirtan without any interruption for 72 hours. Can you imagine? 72 hours, 24 hours a day, 2 days, 48 hours. It's about like 3 days. He can dance non-stop for 3 days without eating, without sleeping. Such an empowered person he was. So once he visited this village called Kuliyagram, and there what he was doing was, a devotee, a Brahmana, invited him, and then he was so absorbed in kirtan that he danced for like 2 praharas, as it is said in the Chaitanya Leela, 2 praharas, which constitute 6 hours non-stop. And while this pastime was going on, a lot of people have gathered just to take association and blessings from a devotee like Vakreshwar Pandit, because he was already known that he is a close associate, and the symptoms are evident that he is a great devotee. So during this time, Devananda, he took the opportunity of serving Vakreshwar Pandit. What he did was, he took a cane and he was trying to organize all the visitors who were visiting him, so that it's trying to make like an organization. Yesterday I was hearing from Dhananjaya Prabhu that in Leicester Rath Yatra they made for prasadam, it's like they made 10 rows so that it's completely organized and everyone need not wait in the queue for hours and hours just to get a plate of prasadam. So that this kind of organization is very important. So similarly, Devananda took the chance of organizing all the devotees who came to see the dance of Vakreshwar Pandit. So he was like putting everyone in the line, in the queue, and just letting them out and giving the opportunity for the next person to take darshan. So by doing this service and not only this, but his main intention was to not obstruct the dancing of Vakreshwar Pandit. So because he was doing this, Vakreshwar Pandit, he became quite pleased by Devananda's service, and then he said that you have pleased me enough, now you will receive the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew the service of Devananda, at that time he was quite pleased and said, now Devananda will receive my mercy. So this is how we can understand, like, even if we offend any devotee, it's not like just by going to Krishna and praying for forgiveness that we can just get rid of the offenses. You go and you serve the Vaishnavas, and in that way, you can counteract the offenses towards the Vaishnavas. If you commit any of us, great devotees like Ambarish Maharaj, Durvasa Muni, he offended devotees like Ambarish Maharaj, and even when he approached Lord Vishnu, even then he couldn't be forgiven until when until he approached the devotee. So it is so important for us to understand that only Vaishnavas are the people who can forgive us from offenses, and Krishna dwells in the hearts of the Vaishnavas. So Vakreshwar Pandit is also famous for his dancing in Rath Yatra. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to organize the Rath Yatra, he used to have 7 kirtan parties, and Vakreshwar Pandit was one of those who used to dance. His service was just dancing and giving pleasure to Lord Chaitanya and also all the devotees. So I'm conscious that I went 10 minutes past the time, but with this note, I'll conclude here. So let's take the mercy of all the Vaishnavas like Vakreshwar Pandit, and if we really want to take the mercy, dance in the kirtan. We'll be having kirtan right after the lecture. You dance in the kirtan, in that way you can take the mercy of Vakreshwar Pandit. So yes, so we discussed about the importance of accepting a spiritual master and also the glories of Vakreshwar Pandit. So I'll stop it here, and if there are any questions, comments, or reflections, thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
One must able to pass the test of spiritual master. What kind of test devotee can pass to be able to pass that test?
So the test is to win the heart of the spiritual master. So it's like you need something from me, but until I am satisfied to give you, how can I give you? It's like, even if I give, it will be just like a part of it maybe. I won't just give myself to you. But if you want the spiritual knowledge, and if you want to receive the spiritual knowledge, it has to be passed down, and you need to be qualified as well. So the way you can pass the test of the spiritual master is you serve the spiritual master. And to the extent that you become, you satisfy the spiritual master. In this regard, probably I can share one of the pastimes as well, as we are discussing Gaur Leela. As Dhananjaya Prabhu was saying, one of the Guru disciples, he said, Narottam Das Thakur, he took initiation from Lokanath Goswami. But it wasn't an easy journey, because Lokanath Goswami, by nature, he didn't want to initiate anyone. So Narottam Das Thakur, in order to take initiation, what he used to do was, he used to go early in the morning and clean the toilet of Lokanath Goswami. And every morning when he used to come, he used to see that the toilet was clean, but he didn't even know who was cleaning the toilet. And it used to happen again and again, and for a bit, and then at the end he got to know that Narottam Das Thakur, he was cleaning the toilets, and wanted to please his spiritual master like that. Menial service. So here in the Prabhupada also, Prabhupada uses the word menial service. And then you win the heart. So Narottam Das Thakur, he won the heart of his spiritual master, Lokanath Goswami, and then he took the initiation. So Lokanath Lokera Jivana, he sings that Lokanath is his life and soul. So that's how you pass the test. Thank you. Dhananjaya Prabhu, are you adding something?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, in the text, Lord Krishna is instructing Arjuna to accept a spiritual master. There's an inference there that there's a personal contact with another person there. That it's assumed that if you want to get knowledge, that you have to go personally approach somebody else. In the modern context, especially in regards to our international society, we don't when we come to Krishna consciousness, we don't come in contact with an official guru like that. So generally we get knowledge from local devotees or by reading Srila Prabhupada's books. And also I just wondered if you could maybe say something about Srila Prabhupada being our Siksha Guru, our main Siksha Guru.
Yes.
Because sometimes that can be overlooked. Necessarily we want to find somebody to take initiation from, but also we understand that Srila Prabhupada is also a main Siksha Guru.
Yes. So Dhananjaya Prabhu is making a very important point here. Like I gave the example, like if you want to go purchase gold, first of all you need to know what gold is, like the properties of gold. Otherwise you'll be cheated, because there are so many people in the market who are selling something which is not gold. They might be coating, a metal with a yellow color or something like that, and they're selling you as gold. So it's very important for us to know the spiritual knowledge, or at least a bit of what we are purchasing or what we are signing up for. So for us, the treasure house of getting this knowledge is from Srila Prabhupada's books. As Dhananjay Prabhu was making the point, Srila Prabhupada is like our Shiksha Guru. There are like two kinds of gurus. One is Shiksha Guru and another is Diksha Guru. Diksha Guru is the one who gives us initiation, the holy name. And Shiksha Guru is one who gives us spiritual instructions or spiritual guidance. So at the stage where we are unsure, we need to do our research, we need to know. So we accept Srila Prabhupada as our Shiksha Guru, or the person who is giving us instruction. And Srila Prabhupada is giving us instructions in the form of his books. So before we sign up, it's like we should have read Srila Prabhupada's books and understood what are Krishna's instructions and what the Guru whom you are surrendering unto is speaking, and how the instructions of the Guru are in line with Krishna's instructions and Srila Prabhupada's instructions. Then you have done enough research. Then you are qualified to purchase the gold which you are looking for or surrender it to the spiritual master. Yes, Sachin, I saw a couple of times Chaitanya Prabhu also is in the queue. Prabhu, are you making a point or is it a...
It's connected to the
Okay. Yes, please.
First, I would say I loved the defense, everything you said about how winning the heart is 100% resonant with my heart. Following up with Dhananjay Prabhu's inference about Shiksha Guru Srila Prabhupada. So currently we are working on a SPIC, so Srila Prabhupada introductory course, and very soon, in the next few months, it will be rolled out all over ISKCON, all over the world. Now, SPIC, or Srila Prabhupada introductory course, that completely focuses on Srila Prabhupada and what is his position in this whole the dynamics that I'm giving. So I would like to request you to say a few words about Srila Prabhupada's position as founder Acharya in ISKCON.
Yeah. So Satyamara Prabhu works with the governing body commission of ISKCON, so he has a knowledge of what's going on within ISKCON and the organization. So yes, Srila Prabhupada is the founder Acharya of ISKCON, in the sense Srila Prabhupada founded ISKCON, and Srila Prabhupada's books which are going to run ISKCON. ISKCON as a movement runs on the basis of Srila Prabhupada's books. One of the pillars of ISKCON, or one of the principles of ISKCON is books are the basis. So Srila Prabhupada, although he is not there with us physically, there are two ways we can associate with a pure devotee of Krishna. One is by Vani and one is by Vapu. Vapu is by physical presence. So when a spiritual master or when a disciple, when a pure devotee is physically present, we can directly take instructions from them. But as is the nature of this world, we are all temporary, and even the great acharyas who come to this material world, they won't stay with us for long. So they leave their legacy behind, but at the same time they also leave their instructions in the form of their books. So Srila Prabhupada's books, so we can take association of Srila Prabhupada in Srila Prabhupada's books. So in that way we can always remain in touch with Srila Prabhupada, or in the association of Srila Prabhupada, and take guidance from Prabhupada. But as Srila Prabhupada was mentioning in the purport, we shouldn't also think that just because we read books, we need not accept the spiritual master. So we need to draw our boundaries there. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Chaitanya Prabhu, sorry you've been in the queue for a bit.
No, that's okay.
So yes, thank you. I had a question, and I also just had a little comment just on your nice question. I was thinking, because you were talking about saying we have to win the heart of the spiritual master. So I heard devotees say that the 10th class disciple, they are asked, the spiritual master gives an instruction, but they don't follow it. The 3rd class disciple hears the instruction and follows it, but begrudgingly. You know, okay, I have to do this, you know. The second class disciple pleases the spiritual master, follows the instruction, like pleasingly, favourably, wants to do it. But the first class disciple knows the heart of the spiritual master and therefore does the service without even being asked. So anyway, that was just a little comment just on that as well. And
Michael has a question too.
yeah, sorry. My question was, because I'm sorry, I missed most of the talk. I was outside with my children, but at the end you spoke about Vakashwar Pandits and how we should all dance in kirtan if we want to get his blessings. And I think that's a very nice instruction. But what I was wondering is, sometimes we may not feel like dancing. And this can also just extend into devotional service anyway. Sometimes we may not feel like doing service. This links to the point about the third class disciple doing service, but it's begrudgingly. So if we don't feel like doing something, should we do it anyway? Or is it better not to do it because it's like you're not doing it in the right mood? If I don't want to dance, maybe I shouldn't dance. What would you say to that?
Well, one of the points that Ayendra Prabhu makes in this regard of kirtan is like, if you aren't chanting and dancing in kirtan, you haven't understood the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, in a sense. And also, Srila Prabhupada says that, I'm just making this point, that as we were, while I was narrating the pastime of Vakreshwar Pandit, we were discussing that Srivas Thakur, he was exhibiting the ecstasies in devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada, on his purport to Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and the recording, Srila Prabhupada says, one can develop these ecstasies in devotional service, but the beginning of all these ecstasies is to dance in the kirtan. So by dancing in the kirtan, you develop all these ecstasies spontaneously. So the beginning of all the ecstasies is to dance in the kirtan. And on your point, like you don't feel like doing it, but do you still have to do it or not? Probably you often made this point in your lectures as well, and I've heard it as well, that when Prabhupada in 26th Avenue, Gargamuni Prabhu, he was a bit, not feeling very comfortable, that whenever Prabhupada used to come in or go out, or when he sat on his vyasas and all the devotees used to offer obeisances, but Gargamuni Prabhu, he felt like, I don't feel like offering obeisances to Prabhupada, so he asked Prabhupada, should I do it or not? And Prabhupada said, you do it, the feeling will come automatically. So, no matter whether you're feeling to dance or not, you do it and you will feel like dancing. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. That's
Rajkumar.
Yes, I want to add some point. Prabhu's question, like how to please a guru. There is we not get a direct chance to serve guru, but we get a chance to follow the instruction, take seriously what guru says. Like if you need Krishna, if you need Krishna mercy, you first need like a guru mercy. If we and Krishna, there is a between like a guru is a representative.
Yes.
Like if you want to guru, you want to pay the price. Check ourselves first. You paying the price to get guru. Check ourselves and what the guru says. Just guru won't ask like a do this, do bill or everything. But guru says like a what Prabhupada said, chant, quality rounds, do Mangala Harati, listen my lectures, read my books. If you follow that, you can get guru mercy. If guru mercy get, Krishna will get. Krishna will get, guru will get.
Thank you very much. Yes, very.
Yes, I think submissiveness is the most important one in devotee.
It is.
To accept by the spiritual.
Yeah, it is. I like one point in this purport regarding submission is like, where was it? Yeah, here we go. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. One must. Oh, where is it? Here. Yeah, let me read from here. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one must serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. Satisfaction of the spiritual master, of self-realized spiritual master, is a secret of advancement in spiritual life. Inquiries and submissions constitute a proper combination for spiritual understanding. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. So one must pass that test. Submission is very important.
I was just going to say, I think we should.
Yeah.
We can stop there.
Okay, so it's okay. Prabhu, you wanted to say anything?
Last one. So,
Okay, just be quick if you can.
so to progress a spiritual life, what is most important if we compare Vapu and Vani? So,
Yeah, when it's Vapu versus Vani, the significance has always been given to Vani, because Vapu is not always possible, because even I was speaking like spiritual master being physically present or not, but even when the spiritual master is physically present, you don't always get the association of spiritual masters. Like sometimes the spiritual master might have thousands of disciples, and even though you're right there in front of him, you might not reciprocate the spiritual master, but Vani reciprocates to each and every individual. So a lot of significance has always been given to Vani. Yeah. Okay, I think we should stop it there. Okay, thank you everyone for patiently listening, and Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai, Ramkrishna Pandit ki jai.